Tragically. Hi everyone, welcome once again to A.O.S. And today with a heavy heart, having this live session, and because during the week the the occurrences up until this time necessitated us to discuss about this topic. This is a topic that is not it's not easy to talk about, and everyone that is facing one of the issues as regards this topic would bear witness that this life, when it comes to talking about the loss of life is not something that it's not a temporary thing; it's a permanent thing. So, and just like one person said, the feeling will never go away, no matter how you try to forget it, or you try to what do you call it? You try to mourn over it, and that is why, to an extent, even if as we grieve, for those that know, I talked about my mom um, being deceased now. She's during this week, we got the sad news that she's gone, and it just made me thinking that what's the purpose of life, firstly, and secondly, I got to kind of retrospectively look around me. Yeah, she died in Nigeria, in Africa, and in Lagos specifically. So, apart from the death of my own mother, apart from the death of my own family member, apart apart from the death of someone that I hold very dear, today's conversation wants to center also on death, but death in regards to those that are in Canada, or those that are, you understand, migrating or moving to Canada for one purpose or the other. And as this conversation is centered on the article, the newsletter article that I actually wrote, that was yesterday. It centers on death and suicide amongst international students, temporary foreign workers, and immigrants in Canada. Now, if you have lost someone before, if you have had the sad occurrence of someone out of your family member, someone out of your friend or your colleague, or even your distant relative go, and perhaps you were close to that person, it's going to hurt a lot. Do you understand? So I want us to picture the minds of those that lose their siblings, lose their sons, their daughters, their fathers, their mothers when they actually come to Canada. I want us to picture that because it's something, it's a wound that cannot easily heal. And for most people, this wound will never heal, no matter how much you try to, because just like I said, a permanent exit. And when we're talking about a permanent exit, you are not going to see that person till death takes you. You understand? You won't see that person, and in most cases, with death, go, it's not that you are going to be buried similar to or very close to the person. You are not going to, you understand, be in the same state that person is, or if you're in the same state, you may not be able to hug the person, to, you understand, talk to the person, to have that conversation you do have, you understand, in life. You may not be able to have it. So, um, I've been hearing about people dying, I've been hearing about suicide, but I've not really had that experience up until this week when my mother died. And it just made me think deeply of a lot of things, a lot of um, issues people are facing. Even though my mom died silently, my mom, she died in her sleep. She was not hospitalized. She had no sickness. She had no illnesses. She had no issues with her health. She was basically okay. You understand? Because I still spoke with her a day before her demise. But the bone of contention today is not my mother. But the bone of contention is for those who are coming to Canada, those that are already in Canada, and what they face in Canada, and now drives them to commit suicide, or at the end of the day, some dying at the hands of other people. You understand? Sadly. So today's conversation, basically, as I said before, is going to be centered on the topic that I wrote in my newsletter article, the LinkedIn newsletter article that I wrote on our LinkedIn newsletter, which is Relocation 360 at by A.O.S. If you go on LinkedIn, you would see that Relocation 360 by A.O.S. You understand? So if we look at that, let's discuss um let's discuss about the topic death and suicide amongst immigration international students, temporary foreign workers, and immigrants. I'm going to be reading the article on LinkedIn, and as I'm reading the article, I want you to also learn with me as I. Okay, thank you very much. I see Imperial Tunji Jamal. Thank you very much for you said Jannah to feel that's for your mom. I mean, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I see another person. Excellent opulence. He said hi, hello, how you doing? So please, let's learn from something about life is you don't need to make the same mistakes other people have made, and you don't need to go through the sad occurrences that other people have actually experienced. You can always most likely learn from other people's experiences and get something or plan something better for your own life. So today, we want to talk about firstly the common reasons behind suicide in students. Why are students committing suicide? Because even though the topic says um, what they call it, death and suicide amongst international students, temporary foreign workers, and immigrants in Canada. Most times we see that many people that commit suicide, many people that kill themselves, or are, as a result of, you understand, one thing or the other, murdered. They are people that have one or two things in common. Okay, Imperial Tunji Lawal is saying, which location are you? Well, I'm in Ontario. I'm in Ontario, the capital city of Canada. So let us know. Are you also in? I think I see the flag of Nigeria and Canada on your name. So where are you also in Canada? You can let us know. So one of the common mistakes, just like the image that we shared on the newsletter article on LinkedIn states that the common reasons behind suicide in students is number one, forced career choices. Maybe perhaps okay, Imperial Tunji Lawal said I'm in Vancouver. Oh, nice. That's great. So the first reason that was actually brought to us here, why people actually commit suicide, especially students, is because they forced some career paths to them. Maybe they didn't want to become a doctor, and their mother forced them to become a doctor. For instance, I thank God my mom never forced me to become anything in life. She just always was praying for me that anything I choose by myself, you understand, may God help me to achieve and to, you understand, succeed in it. She never forced me. She never put anything that, okay, you must do this. So I think I was lucky, you understand, at that regard, in that regard. Now, failure in examinations. Now, that's another thing. And we are going to be talking about one particular group of students or particular group of immigrants, not because that particular country will have any ill feelings about it, but because the statistics state that most of those that are committing suicide are from that country. So we are going to be talking about that particular country. But again, they said one of the reasons why people commit suicide, especially students, are failures in examinations. It may look trivial to some people. For instance, for me, if I ever fail an exam, I don't think my mother would ever scold me for it because thank God, thankfully, when she was alive, if I take my reports, fine, she's going to pray for me. If I don't take it home, she doesn't, you understand, disturb me about it. All she's just bothered about is don't join bad gangs, you understand, don't be in court, don't commit, you understand, what they call it, crimes, don't be engaged in fraud. You understand? She's just always bothered about the negative aspects of it. But you failing an exam is not in our own category of, you understand, you becoming a bad person, or you understand, that will not necessitate them scolding you for it. They don't. My mom won't do that. Now, the third thing is relocation, relationship problems. One of the reasons why they said many people commit suicide, students especially, is because of relationship problems. Maybe, for instance, they don't have a good relationship with their opposite sex, and sometimes it's, again, looks funny, it sounds funny, but these are things that happen, and because it happens, we should not castigate people. We should not, because that's what exactly they are facing. You understand? So don't castigate people. Let them see themselves as someone that you would appreciate, someone that you understand how they feel, and try to encourage them. If you see someone, a student that is having relationship problems, maybe with the opposite sex, or even with the lecturers, we have seen some people, though I don't think it really does happen in Canada, but we have seen some people, because of maybe they have been failing one course, and as a result of that, they went to meet the lecturer, like in Nigeria, and the lecturer is saying that, oh, yeah, he's going to keep on failing this student until, you understand, maybe she's a lady, and she gives in her body to that particular um, lecturer before she can pass. So we have had different stories. Even though it may not happen in Canada, relationship problem with the opposite sex may be the issue that happens in Canada. So that may be one reason why some people are committing suicide. And the last thing is substance abuse. A lot of people abuse substances, hard drugs, you understand. A lot of issues, a lot of, even alcohol sometimes can kill people if you take it to stupor, and you understand, something about life is a little of something can harm you, and so much of something can harm you, especially when it is on the negative, when it's a substance, for instance. So just, it's better to stay clear of it in any form or quantity. It's better to, but those are just the common reasons why people commit suicide. Let's now go into the article in detail. What do we need to know about death and suicide amongst international students, workers, and immigrants in Canada? So today we want to be exploring the hidden cost of moving abroad unprepared. The hidden cost of moving abroad, coming to a country like Canada and not preparing well for your livelihood or your residency in Canada, and why so many people, so many immigrants, so many international students, so many temporary foreign workers, why so many of them end up alone, you understand, lonely, and why they become desperate. Because one of the reasons why some people may want to take their lives is because they are desperate. And please, today we are going to be discussing why you shouldn't be desperate, why you shouldn't, or how to not end up, you understand, alone. That will now make you have some ill thoughts. Just like I said, this week, for instance, I got to experience a thing that I've never experienced before, the demise of my mother. And I understood that many people could be facing things similar to mine. You understand? Because, okay, someone that actually committed suicide, do you understand? He may not, or she may not have the opportunity to, what do you call it? To um to experience the feelings or the issues that his or her own family members are going to face after his or her own passing. So please, I want you also to also learn from this, learn from what we want to say today, and try to encourage people not to take, you understand, or not to commit suicide. Now, what's the silent crisis abroad? There's a silent crisis overseas that many people always shy away from. There's a silent issue people face abroad in countries like Canada, Australia, UK, US, and places like that. And one of the things is that international students, temporary foreign workers, and newcomers, they arrive in Canada, for example, they arrive with hope and dreams. But for too many of them, they come unprepared. They come unprepared financially. They come unprepared emotionally. They come unprepared socially. And as a result of that, the Canada that has been seen as an hopeful place, when they finally get here, can fast become a place of heartbreak, a place of unfulfillment, a place where they feel that they have to take their own lives. And tragically, several of them, several immigrants, several students, they actually what? They lose their lives by suicide, by overdose of drugs and things like, and also mental health crisis. And these are some of the other reasons that we have seen that many people actually commit suicide or get to, you understand, unknowingly kill themselves. Now, there's an alarming reality based on what the data reveals. If you look at the data of how many people are taking their own lives, how many deaths, it's shocking. It's shocking truly to realize that people are dying almost every day. You understand? And not just dying every day by natural causes, but they are dying by physical causes or artificial causes, and even most times or sometimes killing themselves. So, if we look at the data, what the data shows, they said in the Greater Toronto area, I, for instance, am in the Greater Toronto area, which is the GTA, one funeral home handles approximately 5 international student deaths per month. Per month. And they said many from young people in their early 20s, citing overdose, accidents, or unexplained causes. Now we have to understand something. Just like I said, I lost my own mother this week, and I realized that it was a natural occurrence. She has lived her life. She lived, you understand, 60 plus years. And even at that, for us that she left in this world, we are still grieving because she has lived a very good life, a righteous life, a very good woman to the core. She's a mother that I never regretted her birthing me. You understand? She's someone that I hold in high esteem. You understand? But imagine you now having a child of 20 years in their early 20s, not even late 20s, but in their early 20s, dying as a result of some issues, dying as a result of the overdose, for instance, the accident and unexplained causes. And look at that, he said every month. So in this month of July now, about 5 students would have died or may have died as a result of these issues. Now, the funeral homes often facilitate repatriation to India, hinting at a crisis not captured by what? By official records. Now, India is one of the places they said some people are, what do they call it, are dying. Or, I mean, some of the, that's why I said, okay, you see, even TikTokers said it has restricted my life to some audiences because I mentioned perhaps India, and it showed that it has restricted my, because it contains some subject matter that is quite sensitive. So if you look at that, it's a sensitive topic. It's a sensitive, and I don't always talk about topics like this, but due to, as I said, the occurrences that I have actually experienced this week, I just wanted to talk about, because the topic that not many people talk about, not many people are willing to even see. You understand? Because people like to picture or paint the picture of greener pastures every time when it comes to Canada, every time when it comes to countries like this. And sometimes we have to be very realistic with ourselves, and we have to try to cope, because the reason is not to just tell you that this thing is also occurring and because of that don't come to Canada. No, still come to Canada, but know the reasons why people are committing suicide, for instance, and know how to prevent yourself. Know what you need to do before you even land in the country, so that you are not going to be part of those statistics. I always pray a prayer when I was in Nigeria, especially when COVID struck during the lockdown, that God, please don't allow me to be part of statistics. don't let me die, and at the end of the day, people don't even remember my name. All they just remember is a number. Look at this. They said five people, five international students, they die per month. If you look at that, that's the statistics that I don't even know the names of the people that died. You understand? I don't even know what they did, how they have the kind of programs they are studying, the kind of things that cause their death. I don't know. It's just statistics I know. So please, what I'm trying to say in essence is, just like they say, some people are transferred home, they are taken back home. So, like example, India, you understand, to actually do their funeral rites. They also said in Surrey, which is British Columbia, for the person that says it from Vancouver, for instance, Tunji Jamal or Lawal rather, they said in Surrey, British Columbia, the Gurdwara Doc Duke Nivarin Sahib noted that at least 47 Indian students died by suicide or overdose in the lower mainland over 2 years, with an additional 30 flagged via GoFundMe memorials. Now, if you look at that, we'll see that that's a high number. If you see 47 plus 30, that's like 77. Now, 77 divided by 12, that means about 8 students. 8 students die in Surrey, British Columbia, or commit suicide, or get to be murdered by their overdose. You understand? Or you understand one thing or the other that way. Now, if you look at that, they said the High Commissioner of India reported 6 Indian students' suicides in 2020, 2 more in early 2021, an undercounted issue with many deaths likely unreported. Now, look at that. What they are trying to tell us is that some people are even dying that they are not even reporting to the authorities. Some people are committing suicide that we don't even know about already. So that's to tell you that this is an issue that needs to be known firstly and then be addressed. Because if you don't know it, you can't be able to address it. Now, voices from the community, they said funeral home directors confirm multiple deaths each month, saying they hardly recall natural causes. That means most of these deaths are based on artificial causes, man-made causes, including suicides, overdose, and accidents, which are disturbingly common nowadays. They said students describe working 60 to 80-hour weeks on top of full-time study, many doing it illegally, and enduring financial exploitation just to survive. You understand? Mental health services on campuses are often minimal or insufficient, leading many to feel their distress is invisible. Now, if you look at that, I was talking to one of my family friends not quite long that came to, you understand, pay our own respect and you understand, kind of um console me. And she was saying that, do you know that a lot of things happen in the Indian community whereby Indians help themselves, no doubt, to get jobs. They help themselves, no doubt, to actually come into the country with visas, with temporary foreign worker visas or permits, with international student permits. But the salient things that people don't know outside the community is that still in the community there are lots of exploitations. You understand? Those that own businesses exploit. Yes, you see a lot of Indians in McDonald's, in Tim Hortons, and places like that. You understand? But you don't know that the amounts that they are meant to pay regular Canadians, maybe like $20, $25 per hour, $28, because they are looking for cheap labor. Do you understand? They would pay like $14, $17 to students because they know they don't have choice but to receive it. Is there a student that is working 60 to 80 hours per week just to make ends meet and to be able to pay down the loans that they actually use to come, or the loans they got to come to what? to come to school in Canada. Now, one particular student shared that I was thinking, what is the purpose of my life? What am I doing here? International students here are like one man army. When they were asking the person how long the person works, saying 60 to 80 hours per week, that kind of person will be stressed. Even the full-time studies is going to what? Is going to take a toll on the person. Now, based on our research on the risk and the prevalence of this issue, suicide and death, a global analysis of suicidal behavior among international students shows elevated rates. One, it shows that 9.8% reported suicidal ideation in the past year. Two, it reported that 2.2% reported suicide attempts. These rates are higher than domestic peers, highlighting mental health vulnerability in students abroad. Now, what are we saying in essence? What we are saying is even people that the counterpart of students that are already in Canada, like that are citizens, that are permanent residents, they don't think of committing suicide because they don't have the issues, they don't face the issues that many of their counterparts coming from outside the country face. So if you are a student, for instance, you are an international student and you're coming from your own country, maybe like Nigeria or India, you understand? You face more problems, more discrimination, more issues, more restrictions than your counterpart who is already in Canada as a Canadian or a permanent resident. So, because of that, literally, permanent residents and citizens do not commit suicide as much as how international students and those that are still working, you understand, commit suicide, right? Now, they said, this why does this hidden crisis persist? Why is it continuing? There are several factors that causes this. One, financial stress. High tuition fees, often within $30,000 to $36,000 per year, plus living expenses forces many international students into illegal work and mostly exploitative work. Do you understand? And this is what we always try to prevent. This is what we always talk about. That instead of you coming into the country as an international student, paying sometimes life savings, and some people even go as far as getting loans from loan sharks, from banks, you understand, with explosive interest rates that are not, no matter how interest rates are low, they are never in your favor. Now imagine rates being very high, two-digit interest rates from 10% to 11 to even as much as 25, 30%. Do you understand? And that is why, for instance, I am A.O.S. Aziz Olashiru. I have actually come up with something that is currently assisting people to avoid paying high tuition. You understand? And you can learn how to avoid such huge immigration expenses through my best-selling book, Funding Your Move Abroad. You can go buy the book on Amazon. You understand? Go on my website, azizshuderu.com. You understand? And get access to the book. Learn how you can pay for your immigration cheaply. Instead of paying $30,000, $36,000, you can pay as little as 10%, 15, 20%, or not even pay anything again or at all if you know how to make use of the immigration pathways that are readily available for everybody. I do tell people, for those that come into Canada as students, the same opportunities you have is the same opportunity that another person that is still back home in his or her home country has to come into Canada as a permanent resident. The fact that you are here as an international student doesn't give you extra privileges. Yes, you can get added points, no doubt, in the express entry, but it doesn't give you extra privileges to become a permanent resident. Do you understand? Now, another issue people face that causes death and suicide is isolation and culture shock, because there are few local support networks. Again, some Indians, I've met some people that they have language barriers, they can't even speak English well. You understand? Some are stigmatized because of their what? Mental health. And this lead to what? to emotional collapse, because people don't even feel that they are worth anything again. Their self-esteem goes down. You understand? And students even often report limited awareness of the university services when it relates to mental health. And that's why I do always tell people, if you're a student, even a worker, even a permanent resident, you need those mental health awareness. You need to be aware. You need to, for those that are religious amongst us, you can also confide in your churches, in your mosques. Do you understand? To talk about your issues, go listen to weekly sermons. For instance, today is Friday. Today is the Juma prayer, the Juma day for we Muslims. We go to the masjid, to the mosques, to listen to the word of God. We go to, the reason why we are listening is not because, you understand, we don't have anything to do. It's because we know that this life, no matter what you are doing, you need to listen to your creator, because your creator is the one that created you. He knows more about you than yourself. He knows what you need to hear that will help you be in the right state of mind. He knows that you cannot do it alone. You require a divine support. You require something beyond you to assist you to actually, you understand, navigate this life successfully. So, another issue people face that leads to death and suicide is exhausted mental health services. In other words, because counseling is scarce, and most people often end up with only a few sessions for those that even know about counseling session. Even though many people pay high fees and expect continuous care, most often than not, that's not the case. And that's why don't just leave your mental health to the schools that you're actually applying to, because there's only little they can do. You also need to take care of yourself. And by taking care of yourself, one of the best ways to take care of yourself is make sure that the way you are coming into the country is one of the best ways that is not going to stress you, one of the best ways that will not lead to financial burden, one of the best ways that you would get support from even the government of Canada to live in Canada successfully, in order to ensure that what you are able to actually sustain your own your own livelihood. Now, there's some personal stories that speak volumes, which I would like to talk about. A Brampton funeral director recalled, he said, in his own words, "We mourn 6 students' deaths in a month. Then someone else dies next week. Most are under 30 years of age, who are alone, isolated, and most times they are always repatriated quickly. When they say they are repatriated, that means they are sent back home for their funeral rites, especially as the other one said, for those that come from India." Now, on the social platform Reddit, students have expressed despair. One particular student said, "If I fail, I think maybe I'll just commit suicide. I cannot afford to spend more money and I don't trust myself." Look at this kind of person now. The best you can do for this kind of person is to make that person realize that you failing in school is not the end of your life. Yes, you cannot afford to spend more money, but there may be other ways that will not even require you to spend as much as the money that you are going to have already spent in school. You understand? There are some ways for you to actually look into other alternatives to immigrate, so that you don't spend all your life paying, you understand, a huge debt that you can never recover from, you understand, without decades passing. Now, what can we do differently? Because we have talked about the issue at hand. What can we do differently now, especially for those who are having suicidal thoughts? One, universities and policymakers need proactive data collection on student suicides, not just silence or secrecy. So, because if you don't know the problem at stake, if universities don't know, policymakers, politicians, if they don't know that this thing occurs, you won't know how to address the problem. So, firstly, you need to know the problem that is on the path of the universities and policymakers. Two, there needs to be an expansion of mental health access. That means there have to be more culturally aware therapists. Do we have therapists that are Indians that know the culture of Indians, know that yes, many people that are coming from the Indian country, you understand, they may have taken loans. Some of them may have sold their father's farms to get into Canada. So, do these therapists are they culturally aware of the circumstances students are currently facing? Do they even have multilingual services whereby the therapist is someone that doesn't just only speak English and French, but can speak Punjabi, can speak Hindi, can speak Yoruba, can speak other languages, so that that person can be able to relate very well with those that have suicidal thoughts, and you understand, advise them against it. And we need longer term support beyond just a few sessions, because therapists, yes, it's expensive to meet a therapist, but we need longer term support. Not just them going for just 1 or 2 sessions, but having even if it is a program on radio, a program on TV that many people can listen to at once and benefit freely from it. We need that to be actually what that to be done by the what by the government. Number three, strengthen financial safeguards. Now, on the part of the government and universities, there has to be a regulation of tuition fees and enforcing student hour limits, and what and supporting legal employment pathways. And what we mean by that is there should be a cap to how much international students should pay for tuition fee. You understand? It shouldn't be as much as 30,000, 36,000. They should also limit the amount of hours students are working so that they would have that kind of work-life balance, and also support them getting jobs legally and easily, not only legally but easily, so that they don't feel financially burdened. You understand? And of course, we can also help you avoid these financial burdens by clicking on the link. You understand? To get my best-selling book, Funding Your Move Abroad, is going to show you how you can fund your move, even by what you have already. Yes, some people think that it's until they go and get something they don't have, go and apply for loans before, or scholarships or this. Like, there are some things you yourself have already that you can use to make money to actually support yourself and to, you understand, to come to countries like Canada. So click on the link, get my book, and you would see we talked about 30 plus ways you can actually fund your move abroad without necessarily going to the banks or any loan sharks. Number four is formal orientation and education. There's a need to sensitize people about mental health. There's a need to sensitize people about their work rights. Some people don't know that they have some rights. Even though you are an international student, you still have some rights. Your employer cannot just demand you overtime without paying you, you understand, your required wage. You need to know that there are also available supports. If you have been exploited, if you are still being exploited, there's ways you can go report that particular employer so that you get what you're entitled to, and that employer is actually brought to the book. Especially for students from countries where the stigma is high, like in India or from India, you need to know that there are some Canadian government officials that can assist you to actually get what is rightfully yours. Do you understand? Now, what many newcomers should have done instead? What should you have done instead of coming to Canada as an international student, or coming to Canada as a visitor, or coming to Canada and being in Canada illegally? What you should have done differently is to start with what? PR. Start with permanent residency, not schooling. If your desire, I do always say this when I ask people questions, when I talk to people on the clarity calls, and I say, what is your long-term dream about Canada? Many people will say, yes, I believe I want to stay here permanently. If you want to stay here permanently, then don't work on temporary residence routes. You understand? Because while thousands of international students and temporary workers enter Canada every year with the hopes of building a better life, many unknowingly set themselves up for struggle and exploitation. Many people set themselves up for failure right from the very beginning, not because they are unqualified. Because I've talked about someone here that came from Nigeria. She's well qualified. She's a chartered accountant. She's well qualified to be here permanently as a permanent resident. But because this person started with the wrong pathway, now the person is struggling to switch from student visa to permanent residence. So again, let's assist you to get that your permanent resident status in Canada right from your home country as quickly and faster as possible. You can click on the link and go on our website aos.nim.ng/PR to learn how you can do that with us together with our immigration partners. Now, let's be clear here. Studying in Canada is not the same as immigrating to Canada. You studying in Canada doesn't mean you immigrated to Canada. Permanent residency, PR, offers you the full right that you need to study, to live, to work, to visit, to do business, to do everything you want in Canada. But temporary status like study permit, work permit, visitor visa, they do not give you full rights. Right? Now, what starting with PR gets you, you need to know. If you decide to even start with PR, what will you get from PR that schooling or temporary work or visit cannot get you? If you run your PR application first with us today, if you get started with us today through the link, you understand, especially when you're working on your express entry or provincial nominee program, or family sponsorship, or any business or investor stream, automatically, once you are granted your permanent residency status, you unlock number one, full work rights with no restrictions. This one that they say 20 hours per week for students, you don't have that limit. You can work for 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, 80 hours, as much as possible. Two, access to health care. OHIP in Ontario, the Ontario Health Insurance Scheme program in Ontario, OHIP, and MSP in British Columbia, and so on. I remember when I came into Canada and I wanted to go to the clinic and they gave me the health card. It was free to actually go for checkup. It was free to get scanned. It was free for x-rays. It was free. You understand? For even my wife's childbirth, she never paid a dime. In fact, in the hospital, they paid her. In the hospital, they fed her. In the hospital, they took care of her without her paying a dime. They gave her free gifts. And she was also leaving the hospital. So you also get access to in-province tuition rates if you decide to study later. Again, my partner, I remember when she wanted to study, that said, okay, let me just also have a degree or a diploma in Canada, and she started schooling. And she got access to government grants and loans, the OSAP, Ontario Student Assistance Program, that paid as tuition fee from the beginning to the end without her paying a dime, and also gave her extra living expenses, extra living costs, extra living what? Finances for a living cost while she was in school. Now, PR also gives you a pathway to citizenship without risking status loss. I remember when I first came into Canada and I saw many people saying that yes, they have been in Canada for 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, and they are not even permanent residents. I say, so if you're not even a permanent resident, you can't be a citizen no matter how long you are being here. Say yes. You can avoid that for yourself by coming in as a permanent resident. Now you also have freedom to switch jobs, to move from one province to another, or to even leave the country temporarily. As a permanent resident, you are not restricted to stay in Canada. You are not restricted to work for just one employer. You can work for 2, 3, 4 employers. You can move from, oh, you don't like this province again, you can move to another province because you have that freedom. You're also protected under the law as a resident. So, in other words, you are not a vulnerable migrant. Anybody that treats you anyhow, you can report the person under the law and actually get supported. Now, in contrast to that, when you are an international student, you pay 3 to 5 times more tuition fees in Canada. You can't work full time unless you understand you have some limited restrictions or some exceptions. 3, you are ineligible for most financial aids and public services like libraries. You can't get access to it easily. You understand, like OSAP that I mentioned, you can't get access. You face deportation if your status elapses or if you drop out. If you drop out from school, you can face deportation to leave the country. 5, you must reapply for postgraduate work permit. You must reapply for PR, and many of these doesn't have any guarantee. You don't get guarantee because you actually stayed here as an international student. So what are the features, the real life comparisons of you being a PR holder and you being a student? If you're a PR holder, you are able to work full time. But as an international student, you are restricted. If you're a PR holder, you can get domestic rates, you understand, which are cheaper. But if you're an international student, you pay 3 to 5 times more. If you are a PR holder, you have health coverage, health insurance through HIP or the equivalent. But if you're a student, you are most often not what eligible. As a PR, you have a direct pathway to citizenship after 3 years or 1,095 days of staying here. But if you are a what? If you are an international student, you have an indirect pathway, yes, for coming into for becoming a citizen, but it is not guaranteed. You understand? You can also change jobs freely if you are a permanent resident, but as a student, you cannot easily, especially if you are on a closed permit or study visa. Now, I want to tell you, you can avoid exploitation. And this is why PR matters more than any temporary status. Student and work permits can trap you. It can trap you. You understand? Because many students are recruited into low value diploma mills with over-promised pathways to permanent residence. So, in other words, these students end up paying higher fees, they are trapped in unstable programs, and they are exposed to manipulation by agents, travel agents. And I want you to avoid that. Don't be at the beck and call, don't be a puppet to travel agents. Work permits are often tied to what? To a single employer, and that means that single employer may give you unsupported job offers, which can lead you to what? Illegal work or even termination, and no route to what? To permanent residence. So be very careful. Now, PR gives you rights and it gives you structure. With PR, you can work, as I said, for any employer. You can start a business. You can access health care. You can take settlement services. You can sponsor your family members. Do you understand? But and you avoid restrictions and uncertainty. So there is no need for you to juggle permits. There is no need for you to, you understand, switch visas. There is no need for you to risk working illegally in the country. Now, there's a real community experience that I saw on Reddit. Some community voices warn that students tricked into thinking they can get permanent residency by studying. Diploma mills, soft expectations crushed. Those diploma mill colleges will not even be considered by hiring managers. They are what? They are mostly blacklisted. Degree offers nothing to the workforce. So for some people that are thinking that, oh, I need to get a Canadian degree, a Canadian diploma before I'm able to work in Canada. I need that Canadian work experience. I need this, I need that. Sometimes, if an employer knows that, oh, this particular college is a college that they just give diploma anyhow and they don't have value for their certification, that employer may not employ you. So you may finish in that country, in that college, and think yes, you have a certificate already. But that certificate, instead of it even helping you in the job search process, it can even delimit, it can cause an issue to your employability when you finally come in. In other words, that's why I tell people, instead of focusing on education, on certification, on degree, on diploma, focus on gathering skills. And there are many skills you can get for free on YouTube now without you paying necessarily huge amounts, tens of thousands of dollars for. Now, other voices, they also describe the toll that overwork and debt also have on students. Like one person is saying, drivers working illegally to meet TR to PR hours, the temporary residence to permanent residence hours, did not apply since no legal work permits. Now, you have to understand, if you are working illegally, you don't have legal work permits. And because you don't have legal work permits, it may be difficult for you to actually even be able to switch from temporary residence to permanent residence. So these cautionary actions or accounts highlight how temporary only routes often lead to disenchantment, to death, and even mental health emergencies. Why most why most don't start PR? Why do most of people, even with knowing that PR is better, why do they not start PR, and why they should really start PR? Many are told that, oh, studying is the fastest way to Canada. It's the fastest way to stay in Canada. It's maybe the fastest way for you to study in Canada, but it's not the fastest way for you to stay here permanently. Two, once you are in, You will figure it out. Just figure it out. Please understand it when you are in. It may be more difficult for you to figure it out because bills are coming monthly. You may not have time to actually, because there are a lot of things, a lot of factors that can delimit you from achieving your goal. Three, student visa is easier to get than PR. Yes, it is easier, but people don't know that many things that are easier may come at a cost. It may be easier because yes, the schools know they want to collect your money. Canada knows that they are helping the economy. So because of that, you come spend money in the country, no problem. But PR, it is the government that will really be supporting you. So please note that many of these advices they are giving before may not actually be true now. Because this advice often comes from agents or consultants who profit from tuition commissions and they don't profit from your long-term success. They are not all about your long-term success. They are about them getting their own commissions for the jobs they did. So, but the truth is, Canada is always looking for skilled workers. Skilled. They didn't say graduate workers. They say skilled workers. They didn't say diploma holders. They didn't say degree holders. They say skilled workers. Even without the Canadian experience, because I never had the Canadian experience when I came to Canada. Many will still qualify for express entry with the right documentation, whether it be the I.O.S, the Educational Credential Assessment, the NOC, National Occupation Verification Code, and so on and so forth. Again, permanent residence is cheaper to apply from outside, and you are already positioned for full status when you finally arrive. And that was what happened to me. I didn't spend so much coming to Canada as a student first or as a visitor, as a worker. I came from Canada, from Nigeria directly. So it was cheaper for me because I did everything in Nigeria at a cheaper cost. Now, how do you start smartly? How do you start smartly running your what? Your PR application? Here's what others like me have done and what many wish they knew earlier. One, the first thing, check your eligibility on Canada's PR calculator. Check your eligibility. How well are you eligible? If you can't do it yourself, you can reach out to us. We can also assist you to work on your eligibility, not only on federal government express entry jobs, but PNP jobs, provincial nominee program jobs on various provinces and territories. Number two, build a strong express entry profile or apply under the what provincial nominee program, which is the PNP. Three, gathers essential documents like educational credential assessment, like IELTS, like proof of work, and the rest. Four, apply from your home country or from a visitor visa if applicable. Some people will say, okay, yes, I want to become PR, and they are coming to study, they are coming to work. Then truly, you are not going to become a PR, you become a student or a worker when you actually land. But if you work on PRI from your home country or you got visitor visa and when you came, you started working on it, you can land in Canada with your PR status, with your permanent residency status, with no student loans, no student debts, no limited hours, and no fear of removal, just like I am currently enjoying. Now, why this route protects you? One, because it is legitimate. It is not like the scamming ways people come to Canada. You don't depend on shady agents, fake job offers, or diploma mills. Two, you are empowered because you can legally and freely choose to work. You can live in Canada, you can travel, you can also integrate fully into Canada. Three, it is a resilient pathway, the PR pathway, the permanent residence pathway. You are less vulnerable to abrupt to what policy changes, e.g., like the cap on international students or limit on temporary work visa. That doesn't affect you because you are not a student. Now, the bottom line is this: choose power over vulnerability, choose authority over vulnerability. Canada rewards skilled, self sufficient newcomers. Don't gamble on temporary visa. If you are serious about living long term in this country, don't start on a path that traps you in debt, in stress, and in what? In exploitation. Rather, rather, what you should do is to ensure that what you come into Canada, you understand, and you choose the right pathway. Because that is why I chose PR and not school. It was the smart path from arriving into Canada and becoming citizen in Canada in the nearest future. Now, starting the right way is very important because you should focus on PR first and education or work later. Run your permanent residence visa first, secure your future, and then build your life freely with, of course, full rights and with dignity. Now, the final thought is investing in lives, not just tuition. The students that have been committing suicide, the newcomers that have been committing suicide, they came into Canada to seek opportunities, but many of them ended up alone, overwhelmed, and unseen. And sometimes, tragically so, unless the system adapts, compassionate support would always become what an afterthought. So, if you are part of an immigrant, a student, or a worker community, then read this closely. And if you are someone or you are someone you know is struggling, then you are not alone. Seek help, reach out to people, and cross this post to someone who might. You can reach out, you can send it to your friends and your family. Let them also read about this, let them also know about this. And you can read more about our issues on the references and further readings. You can read more. And for more information, for more insights about Canadian immigration, subscribe to our newsletter on LinkedIn at Relocation 360 by A.O.S. and visit our website aos.nim.ng/PR for more tips, guides, and updates on the path to Canadian permanent residence. So, what is your next step? Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, let's chat in the comment section, or you can send me a DM even after this live session and share your thoughts and questions. You understand through that particular medium. So, thank you very much, everyone. Once again, I do appreciate everyone for joining. If we have no questions, don't forget every week we come on at least once every week to talk about trending topics. You can always join us on subsequent live sessions. And don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe, and follow us on our platforms. So thank you very much, everyone, once again, and do have a lovely day ahead. Bye for now.